VA warnings for risks such as suicidal thoughts and behaviors. Veterans must be fully informed and actively engaged in their treatment decisions. After leaving the Air Force, veteran Derek Blumke from Michigan was placed on multiple central nervous system medications by the VA, ultimately cycling through a medication cocktail that required a painful year-long withdrawal. This underscores the problem with uninformed psychiatric care. We must do better. Congress should require written informed consent for all VA prescribed psychiatric medications. We also urge Congress to pass the Veteran Suicide Prevention Act to strengthen oversight by reviewing suicides in which medications may have been a factor. We cannot improve what we do not examine. Honoring the contract also means delivering innovative, effective care for the signature wounds of modern war, traumatic brain injury, and PTSD. Joshua Starks from Oklahoma, a former infantry officer with 2 combat tours in Afghanistan, endured months of delays and ineffective treatment before finding help outside the VA through cognitive behavioral therapy, meditation, outdoor programs, and neurofeedback. These approaches helped him manage his symptoms, but only after he lost his marriage and his military career. Veterans should not have to leave the VA to find healing. That is why we urge Congress to pass the Innovative Therapy Centers of Excellence Act and ensure that the future of veteran care is driven by science, urgency, and the unwavering promise we made to those who served. Another critical concern in honoring the contract is the transition from military life to civilian life. Nearly 200,000 service members leave active duty each year, yet too many, especially those separating from overseas assignments in places like Poland and Kosovo, do not complete the transition assistance program at the required time or with adequate resources. I recently spoke with soldiers in both countries who were preparing to leave the military and had limited support for their transition. When service members separate without proper guidance, they risk delays in receiving the benefits they earned through service. That is why we urge Congress to pass the TAP Promotion Act to ensure service members connect with VA-accredited representatives before discharge to receive earned benefits the moment they become civilians. Ensuring seamless continuity of care and compensation is how we honor the contract in real time. Finally, though my next 2 topics fall under the purview of the Armed Services Committee, I include them in my testimony because several members on the dais also sit on those committees. Service members are taught to leave no one behind. That commitment never ends. The Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency conducts the solemn mission of accounting for those still missing from past conflicts as it works to recover and identify remains so families can achieve closure. We must fully fund this mission at a time when the Pentagon proposes a record $1.5 trillion budget. Once again, the mission of DPAA is facing cuts. This is unacceptable and contrary to the warrior ethos. Fully fund DPAA so that our missing can receive their final salute on American soil. This last issue represents what we consider a dishonorable breach of the contract. We must pass the Major Richard Starr Act now. This offset forces more than 50,000 medically retired combat veterans to surrender their earned retirement pay because they also receive VA disability compensation. Alex Henry, a National Guard member from Arizona, survived an IED blast in Iraq and was medically retired with a traumatic brain injury. His condition worsened and eventually prevented him from working. His wife became his full-time caregiver, and they were forced to sell their home. No veteran should face financial ruin because of this unjust offset. Veterans medically retired due to combat wounds did not choose to leave their service early. Their service was taken from them. Military retirement pay is earned through years in uniform, while disability compensation exists to recognize the lifelong impact of duty-related injuries. This is not double dipping. This is double sacrifice. Pass the Major Richard Starr Act now. The all-volunteer force relies on trust. The trust that when young Americans raise their right hand, this nation will keep its promise. Veterans have fulfilled their obligation. Now the country must honor the contract, not partially, not eventually, not someday, but today, fully and faithfully. Chairman Moran and Boss, ranking members Blumenthal and Takano, and members of the committees, thank you for this opportunity to testify, and I look forward to your questions.
National Commander, thank you very much for your testimony. You indicated in your conclusion a couple of issues that don't rest with the jurisdiction of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. But I am a longtime co-sponsor of the Major Richard Starr Act, and I appreciate the strong support for that bill from the VFW, as demonstrated by what you had to say and what the members of the VFW said in standing and applauding behind you. I look forward to the enactment of that legislation. And while that legislation is not part of our committee's jurisdiction, that will not be an excuse for me to work to make certain that we find the path forward. And I have no doubt that the VFW will assist in that effort based upon your testimony and my knowledge of the VFW. So you have my commitment to find the best path forward that I can, working with my colleagues on other committees to try to make certain that happens as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
You indicated in your testimony a couple of the things I was going to ask you. So what's the answer to those who argue that receiving both military retirement pay from the DOD and disability compensation from the VA equates to providing two simultaneous payments for the same service-connected disability, what you also called or said is not double dipping? What's the best answer to that question?
Thank you for that question. You know, the Military Retirement Fund was created just for a purpose just like this, that the Chapter 61 retirees are falling into. And the Military Retirement Fund is flush. It has over $1 trillion. So I think that is a perfect place to start looking.
Thank you. You gave a real-world example of the circumstances that a service member, a veteran, may find themselves in because of the prohibitions that the Richard Starr Act would correct. Would you care to give other examples of examples that you've seen at the VFW where in the absence of the passage of the Richard Starr Act, veterans and their families suffer?
You know, every day I talk to veterans that have this incurred on them, and it's shameful. It is shameful that we have not honored the contract for those veterans who have earned that right.
Do you think there's also an additional benefit that passage of the Richard Starr Act would be another asset in our military recruitment and retention of those who soon will serve and those who are serving today?
Absolutely. You know, when a veteran transitions from service, they go home and they talk to their friends, their families, their loved ones. And if they have a bad transition coming out of service, or if they incurred, a bad experience, as in the Richard Starr Act, that does affect recruiting, and it affects national security.
National Commander, I look forward to working with you and Kansas VFW members to see that the goal of the VFW is accomplished.
Thank
I
you.
now recognize Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that really powerful testimony, National Commander. And I agree with you totally that the costs of caring for our veterans are part of the costs of war. We need to educate Americans about that basic principle. The 1 trillion or